JC, it's time to make our picks for week 4 in the CFL. Since my picks weren't very good last week, we're just going to gloss right over them and get straight into this week's matchups. The winless Edmonton Elks are 7.5-point underdogs when they visit the BC Lions on Thursday night. It will be coming off a short week, as we talked about, as the Elks played in Toronto on Saturday. McLeod Bethel-Thompson was sensational against the Argos, though the 4-touchdown performance was squandered in a third straight loss, while Vernon Adams Jr. and Alexander Hollins are coming off an exceptional game in Winnipeg when they connected 7 times for 215 yards and 2 scores. Cheese, can the Lions win and cover this wide spread?
Well, 7.5 points seems pretty wide right now, given the way that the Edmonton Elks are playing. And yes, they are in jeopardy of potentially seeing their coach fired after this game because of an 0-4 start. And yes, they are 0-3 right now, but they've played every opponent very, very close, within a touchdown in the first game, within 3 points in the last 2. But as we just talked about at length, they are coming off a short week, and they are complaining about it. To me, this team is going to come out a little bit slow, a little bit flat, and when they've done that at BC Place Stadium in recent years, it has not been a successful formula for them. In their last 7 meetings with the BC Lions, the 8th meeting was the last time they won a game against BC. They have lost by a combined score of, get this, Hodge, 265 to 82. That is absolutely unbelievable. Now, the last game they played there last year was the tightest of all those matchups. I don't think this one replicates it. I am taking the Lions to cover that wide spread against the Elks.
Yeah, I'm getting my knife and fork out. I'm eating these points as well. And the reason is, after playing 3 opponents very close, I think the Elks are due for a dud. I do want to be respectful of what the Elks have done, because despite the 0-3 start, as you said, they've been in all those games. A very small thing goes this way, goes that way. This team could easily be 2-1, or dare I say, even 3-0. That being said, I think that the Lions are the better team. The Lions are the more rested team. The Lions are at home, and I think we'll have a good crowd for this one at BC Place Stadium. I see them winning this game by double digits. I really do. The Montreal Alouettes are 3-point favorites heading into Toronto this week in a clash of undefeated teams. The Owls smashed the Redblacks last week, building a 30-1 halftime lead on the strength of 2 touchdowns from Cody Fajardo, while the Argonauts squeaked by the Elks thanks to a last-second field goal from Liram Hajrullahu. JC, which of these 2 teams will be staying perfect in week 4?
Let's be clear. I think this is the matchup that will eventually meet in the East Final. These are far and away the 2 best teams in the East Division right now. But I think this is the week where Cameron Dukes gets exposed a little bit. I've been very impressed with his play through the first 2 weeks of the season as a young, unheralded quarterback. I think there is something there to develop. But Noel Thorpe and that Montreal Alouettes defense are another animal entirely. And for the last 11-ish games, for their winning streak last year all the way to the Grey Cup and for the start of this year, they have been unbeatable with both their scheme and their performance. I think they're going to expose a young quarterback a little bit in this one, and that is going to prove the difference. It's the Alouettes who stay undefeated and cover the 3-point spread.
Yeah, I think that the Argos are the more banged up team right now. Darius Sirocco looks to be out along the offensive line. I know he's been in a bit more of a depth role this season, but he's still a very talented player. Defensively, I thought the Argonauts really missed Folarin Orimolade off the edge this past week. He's on the 6-game injured list. So when you look at the Alouettes, like, this team is not only complete, they're healthy, right? They have essentially everybody in that lineup who they could possibly want. Yes, they lost a receiver to injury to start the year, but guess what? You have Rodney Reggie White Jr., who comes back in and catches 2 touchdown passes in his first game in 2 calendar years. I think that this is a team that right now looks like they're on a mission. They're, again, the most complete team in the CFL. They are healthy. They are on a heater. I am fully aboard the Alouettes hype train. I take them to go into Toronto and get the win. The Calgary Stampeders are 3-point underdogs coming off a bye when they host the Blue Bombers on Saturday night. The team is coming off a Week 2 loss to BC, in which Jake Maier had another solid outing, showing improved mobility from a year ago. Winnipeg's offense finally came alive in last week's loss to the Lions, though the defense struggled terribly, giving up 500 net yards to VA and company. JC, can Winnipeg get its first win of the season and cover this spread?
While the Bombers were going through their losing streak, this looked like a matchup where they could finally dig it out and correct course. But I'm just not sure right now, and pardon the pun since they're playing the Stampeders, but that they have the horses, right? They've got major injuries on that team right now. Even guys that are on the field like Ricky Oliveira aren't fully healthy, but who's Zach Collaros going to throw the ball to? They got no Kenny Lawler. Dalton Schoen is going to be out. They might not even have Carrick Wheatfall, who's been the one young receiver that has looked promising thus far. It's going to be sparse in that receiving core for this game. Somebody's going to have to step up if they have any hope, but on the road with what's been happening with this team, and I think the Stampeders are a solid, if unspectacular unit, I think they fall here to Calgary.
I am going to take Winnipeg in this one. I am surprised Winnipeg is getting points, or pardon me, is not getting points in this game. The Calgary Stampeders, granted, don't have the biggest home field advantage in the CFL. However, they are still 1-1, right? They got a win week 1 against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. The injuries do concern me, but right now, Winnipeg, to me, is a club that has been backed into a corner. They are bloodied up. They are bruised. And to me, a team of that caliber, this is still a very well-coached football team, is dangerous in that setting. I see the Winnipeg Blue Bombers doing enough to win this one. I think your concerns about the team's receiving core are well-founded, JC. This team has also been obliterated along the defensive line, but I think they can get it done. The Calgary Stampeders would have lost that season opening game against the Ticats if Tim White could catch. So I am taking Winnipeg to get off the schneid. I just don't see Winnipeg starting the year 0-4. That being said, I also didn't see them starting the season 0-3. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are looking to get their first win of the season on Sunday night when they visit the Ottawa Redblacks, where they are 1.5-point underdogs at TD Place Stadium. The Ticats got crushed in Regina last week as Bo Levi Mitchell had his first poor outing of the season, while Ottawa got smashed in Montreal, with their lone highlight being a slick kickoff return touchdown from Devontae Dedmon. JC, can the Ticats get in the win column this week?
I think these have both been fairly similar teams in terms of where they're going to end up at the end of the season. But right now, I lean towards the Ticats getting their first win here. I think Ottawa has been poor at home over the last number of years. They haven't been as bad as, say, the Edmonton Elks with all that losing, but they've been pretty damn close. And Bo Levi Mitchell has looked good this season. I think last week was a bit of a hiccup for him, but at some point he's going to have to get on the same page with Tim White, and this offense is going to start clicking. I don't think that the Redblacks are going to be as good defending the run as the Saskatchewan Roughriders have been the last couple of weeks, which could allow James Butler, if he's healthy, to get going. I think that could be part of the equation, and the Tabbies are going to pull this one out.
I am with you, JC. I think that something has to give in Steeltown. I think that at the end of the day, the Ottawa Redblacks have shown that they're better than last season, but I did not like what we saw from them offensively at all this past week in Montreal. Drew
Mhm.
Brown, to me, looked like a young quarterback for the first time during his brief tenure in Ottawa. I think that Bo Levi Mitchell has earned the benefit of the doubt at least a little bit. I think his receiving core has been very banged up. Shamar Bridges has been a nice newcomer, but at the end of the day, I have to believe that Tim White is going to get going at some point. I'm picking for it to happen this week. I'm going to roll with the Tabbies. I just hope I'm not wrong because, my goodness, if those Steel Town faithful have an 0-4 team, I mean, we've all seen the wrath of Ticats fans on Twitter. I can only imagine
Oof.
what they're going to be like week 5 when this team returns home against the very tough BC Lions.